This is interesting. At the end of this bridge, it looks like a World War II water mine, but it's not. It has a pulley there for winding up or letting out cable of some sort, and you see lots of places for attachment. I think parks, as I've said so many times before, are the spirit of a city, and I think they create to some degree that spirit. There seems to be no particular reason for people to be in parks, except that they want to be. They gain from it. For countries whose spirit was literally squashed, quelled, suppressed for more than 50 years by terrible regimes, you can appreciate the allure and the tranquility of such lovely places. Old men playing checkers in the park. This hillock reminding me of a small hillock I saw in Warsaw that was a monument to the hundreds buried underneath it in Nazi reprisals. Lovely open space where people can sit and watch people revel together in the spirit of their own freedom, particularly among the elderly, unlike the United States where far too many generations take it for granted, the freedoms they don't even understand, not to mention the ones they've already lost. The European crow. And again at Riverside, where I exited my mountain hike. From this side, it would appear that this is at least two churches. Whether they're one and the same, I don't know. This certainly looks to be the earlier church, but who really knows? It's more a matter of style than anything I'm probably capable of detecting. These are interesting. I haven't seen anything like this before. Slabs of rock at an angle and have been carved out. Unique use of wood. The artwork is well worn, faded, paucity of stained glass. That's unique because it's all carved in wood. And yet all of this counterpointed by modern art in this metal sculpture. An extravagance in silver. This may be a carved baptismal font. I wonder what those would have looked like when they had richer, less faded colors. In the upper right, is that an attempt to restore, or at least outline in black, the elements of prior drawings? Maybe a restorer's beginning effort to restore what they think would have been there. What a monumental task for this church. And how much of it could have been preserved from the past in drawings or whatever. Interesting how they've left us a view into the past. A prior archway covered over. I can only imagine how rich a drawing this might have once been. Here's some more example of prior arch. And this perhaps leads to the ossuary or the crypts. It appears to be a rather open confessional. Church Heritage Museum, but what's the church? Like the church we just looked at, this old church, it's painting pretty much faded away. I'm walking due west from that church, and you can almost look in any direction and encounter another church. So here's one. Not sure which one this is, although we'll go across the street and see the sign. We're outside the art center of Baltic Amber. More fascinating, because churches abound, is this piece of what appears to be very ancient technology and equipment. So it's a post or a shaft with a ball on the end to get a grip with, a hook for grabbing onto something, and this stone to weight down whatever it is you're grabbing, and the whole assembly. What its purpose was, I don't know. And whether or not these two stones had anything to do with it, I don't know. Interesting is that to create this, one first had to drill a hole through that stone, which in itself was no easy task. If my memory serves me correctly, the ladies in the shop told me that the purpose of this device was to break up the hard soil so that they could find the amber lying underneath, presumably on the seashore, maybe a riverbed. The large hook, of course, would be dug into the ground and then dragging it along under the surface, breaking that soil. What this old interest building would be, that looks like residences there. They have lovely balconies. How nice. I'm going to go down here instead, just because it looks interesting. I'm trying to negotiate my way, my intuition, back to the main drag of Old Town and find a restaurant. Quaint little local cafe back in the back streets. Inside this restaurant is just this curious wall of what look like fragments of art. It's got a numbering system, but where the key to that is, I don't know, and it's not essential, at least for me. But you do see some interesting work like that. Ceramic oval is pretty. And there a photograph in glass. What haunts you about this is what is the significance? More importantly, what did the artist, if anything, think we would take from it? A woman seemingly balanced on one foot. Notice her left foot's not really touching the second finger. This motif carries us around this side of the building and even up to this wall in front of that car. I think this is a modern museum, and perhaps that's the more of these little snippets of perhaps art embellishing the walls here. And there another church rises in the background. Lithuania. This is the street of writers. That's what it is. For those who have the time, here's the key. Perhaps each one of these snippets, a visual, relate to a particular writer that once, either he or genre, lived in these streets. Foreshadowing today's tattooed. What were their motivations? How did they reflect on these tattoos when they got them? As they progressed through life at critical moments in their life, and as they came to their own end. Imagine this small, sinuous street, Lithuania, when those who would become great writers, probably wallowing in their own poverty, created the works that would make them famous before or after they died. Streets like this, the genealogy, the genes, the DNA matrix of a culture. Very pretty door covering. I'm now back at Restaurant Street. Down the street there I had dinner last night and may do again so tonight, but I don't think so. Here, a modern jewelry shop. That woman over there rolling gold into thin sheets.